What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tsla, and the overall markets. I want to talk about some big things coming out for next week and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends very soon, in about 2 weeks from now. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So we saw a very, very interesting day. We saw the market dump today. This was no surprise because in my video from yesterday, I said that there should be a pullback coming after what Jerome Powell said about how the Fed is in no rush to essentially end up cutting rates. So this was not necessarily a surprise. We were not sure about what Powell would cause initially. There was a possibility of him trying to pump us, of course, or dump us. But once we heard him say that, I told you all that we're going to see that dump. That was back when SPY was in the 595 area. And since then, we dropped about 10 points, and that was exactly what we predicted. So not trying to brag when I say this. I just want to give credit where it's due. I'm a person that has made mistakes, but I think I deserve credit for the week because I called almost every move, especially this big pullback move ever since Jerome Powell's speech yesterday. I just want to give at least myself some credit for that. So anyways, going back to what's happening, at least for the way the market is moving, we got this big pullback right over here. We saw SPY dump quite a bit, and this is just a continuation after what Jerome Powell said. The market's been pricing in the probability of the Fed giving us a pause now being a little bit more probable for December. There's about a 50-50 chance to get either a pause or a 25 basis point cut. The whole market ended up turning red as a result of what Powell said yesterday, so that's what's kind of perpetuating. We saw tech sell off, we saw Nvda dump, Apple dump, Microsoft, Google, the list goes on. Finance held up a little bit better, was actually quite flat. And besides that, almost every single sector was more red except for utilities and then consumer durables like Tesla. So only Tesla, utilities were kind of like green. Everything else was more in the red, and only finance was in the flat. Now, when it comes to other factors, let's talk about earnings going into next week. Just know that for Monday, we have very, very minor earnings such as Trip.com. For Tuesday, we have more retail such as Walmart, Lowe's, and a few more. For Wednesday, we have Neo and Target announcing their earnings alongside Wix and TJ Maxx. And then after the market closes on Wednesday, we also have Nvda. That's going to be a big one. Nvda is going to shake the whole markets as it's going to be causing a big ripple effect on the semiconductor industry and then the other industries related to that. Excuse me. And then besides that, we just have more retail for Thursday. Going into next week, there's not really much data coming out. We just have some housing numbers on Monday. Tuesday and Wednesday is very, very minor data. There's not much coming out. Thursday, we have important jobs numbers and more Fed speakers. And then Fridays when we have the PMI reports. But for the most part, most of the data is quite quiet. There's not really a whole lot that's going on. So that being said, guys, I want to give you guys some quick updates on what I think is going to pan out going into the upcoming trading week. So notice this level. So we're going to ignore all the other lines, just focus on this. SPY has this support at 585 to 586. We did dip a little bit below that, grabbing liquidity. Then we got bought back up, and we're forming a wick here. So we're still holding the 585 support. We actually closed above that. That's a decent sign. This could be a sign that SPY might attempt to rebound going into early next week. And we could be looking for a retest of 588 to 589, so long as there's no bad news over the weekend. So I presume that's the most likely case. We see an attempt to rebound a small, maybe 4-point move up. And then we'll be watching, does SPY push to like 588 to 589, then get a big rejection and start dumping? Or do we break past this and start pushing higher? Overall, I think the most likely case is we're going to be testing this, and then we'll have to see what happens with the news. The news could be a little bit tricky alongside Nvidia's earnings, but I do anticipate that early next week, there should be a small rebound coming, very close to 588 to 589, if not to 592 if that breaks. So I do see us getting very close to 590 or so for a small rebound, and then we'll just have to wait and see what happens after that. So just keep that in mind. For ES, it's the same thing essentially. This is going to try to rebound a bit. We're holding above our 200 EMA at 58.67 very nicely. So I think we might attempt to rebound for 59.20 to 59.25 for a small little rebound, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. We'll look for a small push in ES, and then we'll see what happens after that. For Nvidia, we dipped quite a bit, but then we have earnings coming out next week. So I think this is going to try to push to at least 144 all over again, if not 145.35. So look for a little bit more upside. the earnings that comes out for Nvidia is going to be a make or break for the market, so that's going to be very, very significant. And I think approaching it, we might see a little bit more volatility next week, so volume is going to go up. We're going to see premiums go up, so be careful if you're playing options, and this might try to push a little bit higher just to start off the week. Bitcoin is very flat, but then it held its support nicely, it's trying to push. So despite it being flat, I think there's a good chance we try to push for these highs. We're going to be looking for 92,695 all over again, and eventually approach 95,000. For Tesla, we're looking a little bit more bullish. We have to hold 319. So Tesla is very news dependent. We got a lot of bad news over the last couple of days involving the recall, the tax plan changes, and also a bunch of other things. However, we got some good news with some nice upgrades from different analysts, not to mention the new charging cabinet that Tesla's announcing. So bullish news came out today that's helping Tesla. Technically speaking, it does look a little bit more bullish as long as we don't lose 319. I'm favoring a move back up closer to 330, so we'll have to see what happens after that. So watch for a little bit more upside. We'll have to see how this ends up going, and we'll be very, very patient nonetheless. For NQ, I expect a test of 20,525. If that breaks, we're looking for 20,000 and the 20,650 area. So we'll see if we reject or not off of that. So look for a little bit more upside. excuse me, for the time being. The QQQ, we'll have to see if we end up losing support. We have 495 as our main support. We have resistance at 500. So we grab liquidity right over here, very close to where this support zone was, very close to 495-ish. So now because as long as we don't lose 495, I think we try to rebound for 500 for a small little rebound on the QQQ. Then we'll see what kind of reaction we get after that. I think that Apple's going to try to retest 226, and we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get after that. So keep that in mind. I know people are interested in Palantir, which remains very, very strong, very, very bullish. So we're not turning down that. We're just barely getting a bullish cross in the PPO, and volume went back up because we got some bullish news that came out. We saw some news about how there was a big shift in with the way a lot of buyers are looking at this, and they are once going to announce the fact that they're buying more. So I think that there's a good chance that this is going to push. And we're going to be looking for a test of 67.5 going into next week. So I see potential in this. For the IWM, we'll have to see if we come down to fill this gap. Now, we're either going to fill the gap and then bounce back up to about 231, or we just bounce from here. I do expect a small little rebound. Coin is trying to rebound. You're going to be looking for a test of about 310, if not a little bit above that, to 315. For Amazon, we could attempt to retest 207. We'll have to see. 204 to 207 could be retested before it tries to either reject or not. Meta looks a little bit more weak to me because we got some bad news that came out. The news was that we had a very, very big management company that ended up reducing its stake in Meta by about 310,000 shares. So, we have this gap down here to fill. It is possible we either dip a little bit more and then we try to bounce, or we could just bounce from here. I anticipate a little bit more downside before it tries to bounce, most likely. So we'll have to wait for that. So 550 could be coming before it tries to bounce. Microsoft, I'm not too sure. We're trying to hold 415. As long as we hold this, we could attempt to get back up to like 418. We'll have to see about that. But otherwise, we have a bearish divergence in a double top that has formed. And then for Google, I expect this to try to rebound about 175, and we'll have to see if it rejects or not. So for a small rebound before a continuation lower. It still has that gap to fill. Maybe it rebounds a bit, then it comes back down. So there still is a risk of more downside before this thing finally gets a bigger bounce. So that's what I'm seeing, at least for the time being. I'm going to make this video very short, guys. Today is Friday, so please enjoy the weekend. I'll try to be back tomorrow with another upload. Until then, please enjoy this quick market update on how things are looking, and I'll be back to give you guys more insights for tomorrow and Sunday. Thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you, and peace out.